Very good.
Yeah. What else? What else? Please.
Every Sunday, every week, we pray for healing in the Episcopal Church. How are we doing?
Every Sunday we pray for healing in the Episcopal Church. How are we doing?
Excluding the past question.
Excluding the past.
Well, church is leaving the fold.
Okay.
Virginia and others.
Okay.
How are we doing healing those that are remaining?
How are we doing healing those that are remaining? A couple of things I'd say to that. You know, every time I've been in New Orleans and on the Gulf Coast, communities that are trying to recover from the hurricanes, people there have said to me, you know, people come here, Episcopalians and people from other traditions come here from very conservative churches and very progressive churches, and while they're here working together, they get along just fine. When we're focused on the needs of other people, we can usually figure out how to reduce the anxiety level about our differences. I think that's an important part of healing, by remembering that we have a larger mission than necessarily finding a common mind about particular things in the church. People leave the Episcopal Church, congregations and dioceses don't, because they are more than individuals. They are communities that don't disappear when some of their members say they're going somewhere else. People have left the Episcopal Church from the very beginning. You know, the Christian tradition has had arguments about who can be a member and who's an appropriate member of the community from the very early days. You know, the first argument was about whether Gentiles could be followers of Jesus. And in this country, we've had a long string of challenging conversations about who can be a full member of the church. I don't think those conversations are going to end in our lifetime. We may get past the issue of gay and lesbian people being full members of the church, but there will be another issue. I don't know what it will be, but in the way that we've had those conversations about the places of slaves in the church, and African Americans in the church, and immigrants, and women, and children, they don't go away. They don't go away, because human beings have a sinful tendency to define themselves over against another group. It's much easier to find your identity in being opposed to a group than it is as being welcoming to everybody. How are we doing? I think we're past the worst of the current upset. I think we're rediscovering that we can live together with a variety of opinions about some hot button issues. You know, I often remind people that in the late 1800s, this church was incredibly wrought up about whether or not you could have candles on the altar. Yeah, and people left the Episcopal Church over that issue. They did. They did. They left the Episcopal Church over what kind of vestments the priest wore on Sunday morning. We're fighting different arguments now. And again, when you leave over one issue, it's hard to find a growing identity to attract other people to join you. There are many, they're usually called continuing churches in the United States that have formerly been part of the Episcopal Church. Most of them are very small. The job of Episcopalians is to remind their brothers and sisters who may have gone somewhere else that there is still a welcome for them in this place, and that we think it's important that this community embraces a variety of viewpoints. We lose when people who disagree leave. That wounds and lessens the body.
We continue to pray.
We do continue to pray, and I hope we continue to reach out to people who are unhappy. At the same time, if someone decides he or she needs to follow his journey in another place, we should bless that and wish all the best for that person. And when that identity is established, then we can work at reestablishing some kind of an ecumenical relationship and figure out how we can work together to serve the needs of the larger world.
Thank you.